when the other elements are at parity with the incumbent. Now we'll go through an example to show how this actually works. So if you go back to the 90s, you had Amazon as your first kind of online shopping. It was competing against the Sears catalog at the time, right? Sears catalog was like the Amazon of its day and had been around for like over 100 years. You turn a page and you can load 10 images in about a second, right? On Amazon, using a 56K dial-up modem, it would take you about 2.5 minutes to download 10 images. So obviously, it's not nearly as good as the competitor. And so all of the things that you do when you start talking to somebody who doesn't necessarily understand the benefits of being connected to the store, getting the inventory updated in real time, not having to go through another means of execution using a phone or doing a mail order to get access to something, they don't understand any of this because all they see is that Sears catalog is going to be so much faster. Now you cut to 10 years later and you get 100x improvement on the speed. You can start to download pictures at about 1 second. And this is when things start getting interesting. And people don't generally know about what's going on in the back end, but it's because infrastructure keeps improving. So we went from 56K dial-up modems. 10 years later, we started to get broadband. Those lines were just getting laid down, so not everyone had them all at once. And then we got fiber, and we started moving into mobile technologies and 5G. Now you can go on your phone, and if you go to Net-a-Porter, you can look at real streaming video or real live video without any load times, and it feels very seamless. And the things that people who don't necessarily know about the technology say is just it feels better, right? It's that innate ability to notice that there's no friction or it doesn't feel like it's a janky trade-off. So if I use that same parallel to compare DeFi to its incumbent, let's say Charles Schwab is 300 milliseconds round trip time and it's $0 commissions, payment for order flow. Let's see how DeFi has come in terms of users and adoption through the lens of infrastructure. So 2020 is DeFi summer, and you had 12-second blocks, about 12 TPS. Push oracles at that time updated every 24 hours or 50 basis points. And so you'd basically have to take the worst of when the oracle price had updated or the block time. You can't do a whole lot of computation with the limited space, and so we ended up getting DeFi 1.0 apps, which are delightfully retro and cool, had great trade-offs to make them work, but they weren't what you'd expect to beat Robinhood, like the AMMs from Generation 1 or lending protocols. You know, those were really experimentation for people that really wanted to get dirty on decentralization. Then a year later, Solana came out and really changed the operating system from 12 seconds all the way down to 300 milliseconds. This gave us a whole lot more expressivity with writing smart contracts applications. We saw for the very first time derivatives trading platforms on chain. We saw some order books on chain as well. Behind the scenes, you were getting Pyth prices that were updating at every Solana block. You synchronized block updates with Oracle updates at 400 milliseconds, which is quite fast. And then in 2023, I think the rest of the world realized that rather than convincing people that performance wasn't important as decentralization, performance had to improve. And so we saw EVM take on the same performance. It got up to around 2 seconds on, like, say, the super chains on some of the L2s, but some of them are actually a little bit lower. So we saw that sort of Solana-style speeds everywhere. The Pyth network is designed to supercharge DeFi infrastructure so that dApps can compete with apps.